All right, welcome to another week of Chasing Winners College Football. I think we're at week 9 now. Crazy that the season's coming to an end pretty quick. It's Kyle Maslony here with JP Lyon. I'm actually going to start by going over the numbers for last week because they are ridiculous. I went 9-6, which isn't too bad, but just got to start by giving JP all the props in the world. 12-3. So, how did you do it?
Well, I can put it up to a few things. First of all, I'd like to say shout out to you for bringing me back down to earth a little bit with that horrible Thursday night game that you made us bet, Miami versus South Alabama. Otherwise, I'd be 12-2. Um, and I want to get too big of a head there. I will say, huge shout out to me gritting through that SMU cover. That was not easy. Down 15 with like 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, come back, miss a two-point conversion, exactly what we needed to cover +4 there. That was huge. And I will say, shout out to me making sure that Baylor covers as well, because as long as I don't watch the game from my house, we win, and we win by enough. So that's the key. So as long as I keep doing that, apparently all my bets work out. I'm not going to pretend like I know what I did. 12-2 is ridiculous, but we did both go 5-1 on the podcast picks as well.
Crazy good week for both of us. I mean, it's funny because I have a good week and you still get the lead back because you just had the most ridiculous week possible.
Yeah, I'm up 2 games on the overall picks now. I'm sitting at 66-60-1, so that's 52%. Kyle's sitting 64-62-1, still above 500, 51% there. And then Kyle is almost back to 500 on the podcast picks now. He went 5-1, and he's only 2 games below 500 now. And I am 12 games over 500. 29-17-1 on podcast picks.
So
And
it's
we and we both won our best bet last week as well.
amazing. So it still stands that I win the games that don't matter in the week usually, and you win the big ones.
Usually correct.
Except we both lost the nice Troy South Alabama game that I threw in there last week.
Kyle said before that week, he was like, yeah, it was really tough to stretch it to 15 games this week. I was like, you don't have to do that. We don't have to bet 15 games every week. 14 is fine.
It must be 15. This week was a bit of a stretch too, but not as crazy as South Alabama and Troy last week. It
Yeah, at least it's a Pac-12 game on Thursday, even though no one's going to be watching Washington State versus Utah. I shouldn't say
no,
that. I have no friends at Washington State, but
no,
yeah,
I think there's a big enough Thursday night football game to keep people away from that one. But
mm-hmm.
um but all right, let's dive into the week. 12 big noon kickoff, which is why it wasn't the whiteout game. Ohio State, number 2 Ohio State, number 13 Penn State. Ohio State 15.5 point favorites. I think this one's fairly straightforward. What do you think?
I I don't know how you really bet against the Buckeyes right now. I mean, I say that as we both tried to last week with Iowa and it did not work out. So
Well, yeah, that was 30.
yeah, but if the Iowa defense can't slow down Ohio State, then I don't know who can in the Big Ten at least. They should be able to run through the conference. So Ohio State minus 15.5. I, I if you told me the spread was 22, I'd probably still take Ohio State honestly.
Yeah, and it's funny. I was actually thinking about this earlier. Like it's so weird because like post whiteout game seems like a letdown spot, but then they just have to come right in and play Ohio State the next week. It's like that's brutal.
Yeah, yeah, it's not ideal. I was trying to think of because I was looking at the numbers on what people have bet on already. I want to say Ohio State is just heavy public because you can't Bet against 65% Ohio State right now.
I feel like you just can't go against Ohio State here, especially Michigan. Michigan a few weeks ago just ran all over them. Was it? I forget the exact yardage count off the top of my head, but it was in like the 300s, 400s range. Like it was bad. Ohio State obviously has the potential to do the same thing with all the talent they got, and maybe they'll pass all over. Manny Diaz is just going to be as aggressive as he.
It should be easier to pass all over them because they're supposed to be better against running the ball, but their pass defense isn't anything special, so that should be what they do.
We will see. I am on Ohio State minus 15.5 there as well. Next game we're talking about noon ABC. No ACC. Well, one ACC network game. We'll get to that later. But noon ABC, same time, should be hopefully a lot more competitive of a game. Notre Dame going to the Carrier Dome, or the JMA Wireless Dome, it's called now, to play number 16 Syracuse. Syracuse are 2-point favorites. JP, what are you thinking?
I really hope Syracuse doesn't just lose this game outright. That's what I told you before we got on this call. I could very easily see Notre Dame beating Syracuse here and then losing to Clemson because they're the hardest. Notre Dame is the toughest team left on Clemson's schedule probably. Because
the Cox.
Because it's not going to be in Cocktober, then South Carolina is going to be ass in November. But I could see Notre Dame just getting shit kicked out of them by Clemson, but before that they beat Syracuse this weekend to come in riding high. To me, I still have to go Syracuse here because they played so well last week, and it feels like they can still bounce back from it. And Notre Dame isn't good still, right? They're not a good football team.
Notre Dame's still bad.
Yeah.
A dominant win over UNLV is not going to change my opinion on a team that lost to Stanford. And I believed in Stanford way too much early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
So I know they're bad. I've watched too much of them, and they beat Notre Dame pretty comfortably, I'm pretty sure, if I remember.
No, 16-14.
Yeah, but they beat.
The reason I thought Notre Dame might be back was when they beat BYU, who just got killed by Liberty.
It turns out BYU sucks, yeah.
They're horrible.
Another team I was very high on at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
We got a batter.
We were discussing at the beginning of the year if they could play well against the good teams on their schedule, they had a chance at the CFP. And then they lost to Liberty.
Still beat Baylor.
We don't need to talk about that.
But yeah, I'm on Syracuse -2 here. I can't stop my belief in the Syracuse team. That home crowd's going to be crazy. That game's been sold out for like 2 years. My dad's been trying to get tickets. It's funny. The game's actually been sold out for like 2 or 3 years. They're going to be going nuts in that dome. It's the first time Notre Dame has come. It used to be believe it or not, it used to be a pretty big rivalry back in the day. But last time it was supposed to be a Syracuse home game. They played it at MetLife Stadium, and it turned out to be a Notre Dame home game there. But this time they're up at the dome. They're going to be crazy. They're going to be Sean Tucker. Hopefully, will have a big game. Syracuse -2. Next up, your forte here, the conference that keeps producing the best games of the week constantly. The Big 12 has been so fun to follow this year, and it just continues that way as number 9 Oklahoma State travels to the Little Apple, Manhattan, Kansas, to play number 22 Kansas State. 3:30 on Fox. Is this where game day is going? Because it should be. No, they're going. they're going to Jackson State. That's right.
Yeah.
They're taking their HBCU week,
Mm-hmm.
but they should be going to the Little Apple, Bill Snyder's family stadium.
Yeah,
Kansas.
I mean, they had to take this week in particular. They had to try and screw over the Big 12 again. Naturally, they're going to take this week to go to Jackson State, and not any other week.
Yeah, and next week they may be going to the ABC game of the week of unranked Florida State versus possibly losing record Miami. That'll be brilliant. But
Yes, that will be quite the game to watch.
I'll be there. But back to the topic at hand. Kansas State's -1.5 point favorites. Weird line, especially with K State's quarterback out.
Is Martinez officially out?
I'm pretty sure I read that he was, but
How about the backup?
not sure about the backup.
It says game time decision on Martinez, so he could play, but could not.
That could wildly change the line there, but I think it's still weird that Kansas.
Would, honestly.
It's still weird that Kansas State's 1.5 point favorites.
Yeah.
But this is a what the hell is this line moment. Maybe you could explain it to me. Because I don't know.
No, so my dad went to Nebraska, so I grew up watching Nebraska football, and I still have some sort of allegiance to them, and I try to root for him. I try and encourage him. So I've watched a lot of Adrian Martinez playing football, and Adrian Martinez should not be favored over Oklahoma State. And he's the starting quarterback. So if the backup is worse than him, then the backup should not be favored over Oklahoma State. There's just no way. I will say Oklahoma State, they won by a touchdown over Texas last week. They weren't really in the first half. The second half, they kind of came alive, and they just played incredibly disciplined football. But it's not like they blew out Texas. And Quinn Ewers had the worst game that he's ever had. So maybe he can't play on the road, which is good to know. But
keep it back in mind.
Yeah, we'll just bet against Texas on the road now. This is great. But there's no explaining this line. I saw it today and said I really wish that I did not have to bet on Kansas State, because that's just not what I want to do with my life and my hard-earned money. But I have to here, so I'm taking Kansas State -1.5. When I actually bet it this weekend, I hope it can take money line still. You're probably gonna try and fade Vegas here. I will say the public, it's not like the LSU line last week. LSU, I think, ended with 57% of the public on it. This one, I want to say Oklahoma State is getting 66% of the money.
Oh, God.
Bets. Which, when you combine it with the line itself, you know that something is happening. Boy, now I can't find it. That is. I'm sure you're going to fade Vegas here, aren't you? 67% now.
Yeah. I have a pattern of doing this from time to time, and it usually fails me when I bet against a line that doesn't make sense. But yeah, I don't see why Kansas State are favored here. It just infuriates me. I have to take Oklahoma State +1.5, and it's probably gonna lose, but I just have a mental block here on how I can't in my right mind pick K-State.
And I mean the weirdest line a couple weeks ago was probably the USC Utah game, because there were 3 in the games we talked about. 2 we were together on. 1 was USC Utah. We were on the opposite side, and I feel like that was probably the weirdest one. And your side hit, so take the weirdest line of the week and take Vegas' side, or take the public side, I guess. But I don't know
That
how
was
to.
one time that happened
Yeah.
of many.
It was just the last time that this happened is the issue. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to take Vegas' side with that, and then I'll take the public side with the Ravens tonight, and that's it's gonna screw me. It's gonna be the opposite.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens there. So, next up, number 7 o'clock on ESPN. Number 19, Kentucky. Kentucky going on the road to Neyland to play number 3, Tennessee. Tennessee are 12-point favorites. Is this a possible look ahead spot for Tennessee with Georgia on the horizon next week?
Well, I tried to say that last week. That burned me. Um, but yeah, it feels like it should be. Um, I feel like I ask this question every week: Is Will Levis playing? He is, right?
He is, yeah.
Okay, great. Um, I I think I've lost a lot of money this year betting against Tennessee. So I'm just going to continue doing that and hope that it eventually turns around. Um, I don't see Tennessee blowing Kentucky out in this game. I just don't. So it's almost 2 touchdowns right now. Um, I'll take Kentucky plus 12. Levis is good enough that he should be able to keep them in the game, similar to the way he did against Ole Miss, which they should have won outright, and Ole Miss isn't any good as we saw last week. But yeah, it doesn't feel like the right side, but 12 points is a lot of points, so I'm going to take Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way. I do think it's a look ahead spot for Tennessee. I think they win the game. I think they win it very, very close. I think Kentucky's still a solid football team. Coming off the win last week over Mississippi State, I was on the wrong side of that one.
That
I
was
believe.
Alabama.
What's up?
Tennessee
Ah,
last week played
no,
Tennessee.
no, no. Kentucky 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They had a bye week last week. That was my mistake.
Okay.
I just looked at their schedule and said win over Mississippi State last game and got confused
Mm-hmm.
there. But yeah, Kentucky plus 12. I don't have much more to add besides for what you did. Over a 10-point line here just seems like way too much for me. I'm gonna end up getting burned, of course, but
And it doesn't feel like Tennessee is going to cover every spread. So this is a game where they'll probably win, but if I have to pick out a spot where they're going to win and not cover, this is probably one of them. I think I also picked out the game against Florida in week 2. That one worked out for me as well. And then I was on Tennessee against Pitt. Maybe I've bet on too many Tennessee games.
God, funny how this season just completely changed. We were talking about Florida a ton at the beginning after their win over Utah, and now they're playing Georgia and they don't even get on the podcast.
Yeah, I tried to force it in because I have a buddy who went to Florida and he's at the game this weekend. I tried to force that game in there. And Kyle's like, it's a 3 touchdown spread. All right, never mind.
Yeah. I mean, if next week's Tennessee Georgia game is somehow a 3 touchdown spread, I don't know how that's going to happen, but we would have to talk about it anyways. So,
Yeah, could it be a look ahead game for Georgia as well? Could they be looking past?
this is such a rivalry game for them. I don't think so.
I don't know why 64% of people are on Florida.
Weird.
That's what it's at right now. So I was like, that can't be. It's the same kind of thing with Michigan State too. Another game we're not talking about, but everybody's on Michigan State to cover those points.
I think it's just for both of those games. I think it's just big spread rivalry game. You go the underdog. I guess that's just the mindset there. But both of those teams are terrible, playing two of the best teams in the country. So it's hard to pull the trigger on that. So next up, another game that I looked at and just said, what the hell is going on here? What is this line? 7:30 SEC network. Number 15 Ole Miss going on the road to unranked Texas A&M, 3-4 losing record. Ole Miss is only a 2-point favorite here. What's going on?
What rank did you say Ole Miss was?
15.
They only fell to 15.
Yeah.
That's Kansas State fell further, and they lost on their third string quarterback to a top 10 team.
Yeah, the AP poll doesn't make sense sometimes.
Ole Miss lost to unranked LSU by 25 points. Fully healthy.
Yeah, I don't understand what happens with the. It's definitely SEC bias there. I mean, they're ranking Big 12 teams, I feel like, pretty correctly, but the drop K-State as far as they did and keep Ole Miss at 15.
Yeah, and they've got, I assume Texas is out of it now. This is how far it's come to where I don't even check the AP poll. Now that we've stopped being ranked.
I'm pretty much the same way there.
You said Oklahoma State was 9. TCU, I assume, is 7 then. Let's take Ole Miss's spot.
Let me actually check the rankings if my computer wants to load.
Kansas State would be the only other ranked Big 12 team. That's not good.
But they just continue delivering the best games every week, so.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I had to guess the game we talked about, and there's going to be some really good games this week. Baylor Tech, I think, is going to be a dogfight. TCU West Virginia is going to be a sneaky dogfight, although the spread's only 7, so they've kind of adjusted for what it's going to be. And 11 a.m. in Morgantown for that game, too, is going to be not as bad as Morgantown at night.
TCU's number 7. You were right there.
I just took Ole Miss's spot. You were telling me that this is A&M's first home game since you were at the stadium.
Yes, and that was all the way back in like mid to late September. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. It's just wild to me that this program is in just absolute dumpster fire mode. They have never seen dark days like they're currently having right now when they can't fire the coach and they've got freshmen getting suspended for openly smoking weed in the locker room before the game. That's where they're at. And they're going to win against Ole Miss, who was just in the top 10 a week ago. What is happening?
I got no explanation. The culture at Texas A&M, as you mentioned, I mean, freshmen getting suspended for just lighting it up in the locker room
before the game.
They had the suspensions earlier in the year for before the Miami game for similar disciplinary issues.
Well, yeah, that was more dangerous than the weed, but yeah.
Yeah, still disciplinary issues. Mm-hmm. I mean, it seems like Jimbo Fisher just could, even at FSU, the team culture was not great there. They just had generational talent that masked it.
And right now it feels like they tried to buy that talent, and the talent needs a little bit of coaching that they are not equipped to handle or to provide right now. So that's now they just don't have. They just have the bad culture without that type of talent. That does not look good on the football field or during the week when they are trending topic on Twitter every single day.
No, and it hasn't looked good on the football field all year, as we've seen. I mean, they're 3-4. Even some of their wins, they looked real bad. I'm looking at the Miami game in particular.
Yeah, that was one of the games where, like, when you look back, I'm just stealing this take directly from Big Cat, but when you look back on the regular season and in both pro and college football, there's just games where you look back and you're like, that was supposed to be like a huge game. That ended up meaning absolutely nothing. Like Packers Bucks in the NFL and then that game in college, among other games. But it's just neither of these teams are very good at all, and we thought it was going to be spectacular.
Well, yeah. That game in particular, you look back though, and you watch it, and you're like, oh, it makes sense that both teams are terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was one of the worst college football games of the year. When it was supposed to be. Just watching it at the time, it was terrible. In the stadium, I was going through it. So yeah, back to the game at hand here. After everything we just said, I'm still going Texas A&M +2.
They're,
Why? Why? Because it makes no sense.
they're going to win outright. We're just going to be sitting there winning our bet and just kind of. This might be. I mean, this is on SEC Network. I'm not going to watch it.
Okay, so do they storm the field? Do they storm the field if they win?
Probably. I mean, what else do they have to do in College Station?
I mean, there was just such high expectations for this team that it seems terrible if they storm the field for beating number 15 Ole Miss, but that's where we're at with them at this point.
I had someone tell me that LSU shouldn't have stormed the field for beating Ole Miss either because they beat them by so much. And I was like, still a top 10 team that you have some level of rivalry with. In this one, you're so bad. Top 15 team. You probably don't have a rivalry with them that much, but still, I don't know. If I wouldn't be one of the first people rushing the field, but if other people rush the field, then I definitely follow.
Yeah, just take what you get. I would want to storm the field in this case. Also, just something ridiculous. Talk about the loyalty of this fan base. You know how they have like what tickets are going for next to the games on ESPN. Tickets for this game are still going minimum $60. It's like they're still gonna sell that place out even though they suck, which coming from a Miami fan is just so impressive. I
But yeah,
will.
because you guys don't sell at the stadium.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean.
I mean, neither do we, but that's for a
they're
different reason because we don't have good fans.
they're well, same.
Yeah.
But I don't want to admit it, but yeah, we're they're gonna sell out a 100,000 plus thousand seat stadium when they suck. So that's gonna be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think we're both on the same side. That doesn't make sense there. On to the last game we're talking about. I always manage to sneak an ACC network game in there to just completely.
1 week without one, and yet here we are.
I was gonna say we almost subbed it out, but then I kind of explained why I put it in there, so we kept it in. 8 o'clock ACC network. Pitt traveling to number 21 North Carolina. UNC is a 3-point favorite at home. Why I kept this in there, in case you haven't been following the disaster that was the ACC Coastal. This could potentially, this early in the season, just clinch the division for UNC, because the division has 5 teams with 2 losses. They already have the tiebreak over Duke and Miami. Georgia Tech is the other team with 2 losses, but besides Pitt, but that Georgia Tech suck. And if they beat Pitt, so they'll hold the tiebreak on Duke, Miami, and Pitt, and be 2 games ahead of anybody else with 4 to play. They would have the division in hand, but if they lose this game, it gets interesting because Pitt would have the tiebreak on them,
Mm-hmm.
and they still have NC State and Wake Forest on their schedule. So that could easily be 2 losses for UNC. So if Pitt wins this game, they're still right in the Coastal race. Well, if UNC wins this game, it's over. Hey, Miami enters back in the Coastal race because then we could possibly pick up the tiebreak on Pitt and bang. But no, I think we're definitely out of it here.
Focus on getting the tiebreaker over Virginia first.
Yes, obviously it's more just between UNC and Pitt here. So JP, does UNC essentially clinch the division in this game?
Having watched very, very little North Carolina football this year, and having watched zero Pitt football outside of the games against West Virginia and Tennessee, I will say yes. North Carolina has more to play for, I'd say, and they're playing at home. Um, so 3 points isn't very much. I'm going to take UNC -3 here. Um, yeah, I've really only watched, as far as UNC goes, I've watched a little bit of the Miami game to try and support you, and then I watched the end of the Duke game um, because I was mad at you for taking UNC as your best bet.
Okay, so yeah, I think UNC pulls this off as well as at -3. As much as it kills me to say, I think they run away with the Coastal at this point, the worst division in college football. But but yeah, Drake May's been super impressive this year. I know you haven't watched much of them. He should be a Heisman candidate, but he's not getting enough credit for it. I mean, a 70% completion percentage, 24 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, also 378 rush yards on the season for 3 touchdowns. I mean, a nine. This is a crazy one. A 9.9 average completion, four and a half yard average running. He's having a Heisman season and nobody's paying attention.
Because they're not playing anybody.
I know, but he's still putting up numbers when they play
as long as
Clemson.
you know.
Yeah, when they play Clemson. Well, I say when, it's not officially clinched yet, but if they play Clemson in the ACC championship game, they finally will play somebody, and I think he'll put up solid numbers on them. They'll still lose, but they'll.
They won't be playing anybody because Clemson's not any good.
I think we still both believe that they should have lost last week, but
Yeah.
Syracuse had a tough time closing that one out. So yeah, UNC -3 here. They'll run away with the Coastal. You got some good value actually if you bet them at the beginning of the season. Congrats, because they were the third favorite to win. I think it was like +900, +1,000 or something. Because Miami and Pitt were the co-favorites to win the Coastal. So you got some good value there, and hopefully they win it out for you. Maybe not. Maybe Pitt win and just open the Coastal wide open again for some famous Coastal chaos, as we like to call it in the ACC.
I want Miami to win, but also be under 500. Can that happen?
You want Miami to win the Coastal and be under 500?
Can they miss a bowl game and still win the Coastal and then go beat Clemson?
That would be the funniest thing ever. You want to know why? Because if somehow an unranked losing record team won the Coastal and won the ACC, they would have to go to the Orange Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
That's the rule.
Yeah.
The Orange Bowl literally could not take Clemson if they wanted to. They would have to take the team that that were terrible.
I taking like Duke.
I don't think that's possible, sadly. It would be really funny, but I don't think it's possible. I did see a math equation somebody posted the other day, an equation to where Northwestern could go 4-8 and win that Big Ten division.
Yeah, that I do like that one just because it involves every Big Ten team, a Big Ten West team going 4-5 in conference, and Northwestern would just have the tiebreaker based on divisional record. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping for it. It also had Minnesota beating Wisconsin, so that would be nice. But I think Illinois would have to lose a lot, and I don't think they're going to.
Yeah, I think they're too good for that. Moving on now, let's close it out. Best bet of the week. We both hit ours last week, which was amazing. It rarely happens, but JP, who are you going with for your best bet? And does Ryan have anything? I think we forgot to ask him.
I asked him. He hasn't looked at it yet. If there's anything that he has, I will add it in when I'm editing, like I did last week. His loss last week because he tried to fade the orange, and that did not work out for him.
He said the exact words he said was Clemson by a billion,
That's what
if I
I was going to
remember
say.
exactly.
That did not work out. So that's okay because he doesn't listen to it, so we can talk bad about his picks as much as we want. He is, since I'm here looking, his best bets are 1-5 for the 6 out of 8 weeks that he's supplied something.
Beautiful.
So for my best bet, I want to take Baylor. I know it'll be a dogfight, so I can't do that. But I will say the fact that 70% of people are on tech, something like that. I'll find the number. Everyone's on Miami too, so you're a square if you try and take that one. But 73% on tech. 73% of people are on tech -2. When both teams stink.
Really? Everybody's on Miami? I thought since we are literally the worst team in the country against the spread, everybody was going to be off us.
Yeah, but it's -2 and it's Virginia. Virginia's awful.
I know.
But 67% on Miami, 73% on tech against Baylor. I know that Baylor hasn't won in Lubbock in forever. I still think they can pull it out this week as long as I'm not in my apartment watching the game, which I won't be. But that's not my best bet. My best bet is a team that I think stinks. My best bet is on the number 10 team in the country. I don't know when this happened. When did they become the number 10 team in the country? They almost lost to Liberty.
Then they went and almost beat Clemson.
But Clemson's not any good.
But the AP poll doesn't seem to realize that. Maybe the CFP poll will. Maybe you will be enlightened. All of your takes will be embraced by the CFP poll next week.
The polls will never agree with me because I am right and the polls are inherently wrong. That's the problem that we face in this country. So I am taking Wake Forest -3.5 on the road at Louisville. I hope that either Wake Forest wins by 23 or Louisville wins outright. Because if Louisville wins outright, I am correct, and I can tell Kyle that Wake Forest isn't any good, and no one in the ACC is good.
Well, yeah, I'll just bring it up again. I thought NC State was good, and I was terribly wrong. So.
And now you're trying to tell me that Wake Forest is good. You see where this is going.
I haven't said that Wake Forest is good. I said that they're going to lose to Syracuse. So that's coming up later, though.
I still think you tried to defend them.
I'll probably be proven this week that Syracuse is not good, but I hope not. So my best bet of the week is one that we you kind of prefaced.
I'm sorry, but I said, why is Wake number 10? You said because they're really effing good. That's your exact text to me.
Okay. Yes, they're okay.
Now do you see where this is going?
Their quarterback is also very good.
Yes, he's throwing against nobody.
The ACC is a quarterback league, right?
Yes, it's not a defense league.
We have the most starting quarterbacks out of any conference in the NFL. Fun fact.
Okay.
So don't hate on ACC quarterbacks. Next, so my best bet is one you did start talking about it. You almost convinced me off of it, but I'm sticking with it. I just can't go against it. Virginia's too bad. Miami -2. I'm diving straight into a black hole. I cannot believe we're only 2-point favorites away against Virginia, which is why I can't not take it. I know TVD's out. Tyler Van Dyke is out for this game. I think the line is looking at how Jake Garcia played last week, and it was terrible. I'll be first and foremost to admit that Jake Garcia looked awful last week. But you know what? Literally nobody gave him help. I mean, there were 5 fumbles, and then he ended up throwing 3 picks. Let's Oh, I hate turnovers, but
It's a lot of turnovers.
it's a lot of turnovers, but I think he's better than what he showed last week. I mean, I can't believe the sentence that I'm about to say, but he almost led us back into the game against Middle Tennessee State. um,
Not
he
quite.
he looked great. He looked great in the spring game. I mean, he is a talented quarterback. He was a high four-star guy out of California. I mean, they produce quarterbacks like crazy out there. I think he's better than what the public thinks, or at least what Vegas thinks right now. Um, I'm I'm just talking in circles here. Miami
I
-2 because I
I
can
do want
I
to know.
I just can't fathom the fact that we're only 2-point favorites against UVA, so I have to.
That's kind of where I was going. When the season started, and you thought you could win the conference, what did you think the spread on Miami Virginia would be?
Probably around 20, 23 and a half, maybe.
Jesus.
UVA are bad.
I know.
They're really, really, really bad.
I have family in Charlottesville, so I try to pay attention to them and root for them too. I tried that for a couple of years, and I was like, I can't do this.
There were like 1 or 2 years where they were decent, but
They could just win some games, but they could never string anything together.
they won the Coastal 1 year.
Did they really?
Every single team in the Coastal has won the Coastal. There was a 7-year period where all 7 teams won the Coastal. the
Interesting.
the Coastal was phenomenally bad. It's
That's really is the worst division in football.
it's so bad that it's fun to watch, but I bet you would say otherwise.
I would, yes.
Yeah. So that and that's why I just can't not take Miami as my best bet because of how bad UVA are. And if we lose this game, we will be going into Florida State 3-5 and playing on ABC primetime as a 3-5 team at home with a weirdly sold out stadium because the stadium is always sold out for the FSU game, no matter how bad both teams are.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
it's the one game a year where that's the case. So we have to win this game. Just
You have
just
to.
have to.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's why we're gonna lose. But
We
I'm
should do
on
we should
Miami.
do a,
So
a, a podcast parlay, just Miami and Baylor. One
oh
side
my god,
one side with all the public and one side against all the public, and then they just both end up losing.
let's do it.
All right.
It's official. Miami Baylor.
The official podcast parlay of the week. Oh,
Yeah.
imagine if we just started doing that segment at the end. It's not our best bets, but we both just pick another game that we should just do a parlay for.
Oh god.
We can lose even more money.
Oh yay. On hey, we both won last week. We're
We
talking
did.
about losing money here. You went 12-3. I mean,
Hmm.
come on.
We went 60% and 80%.
Yeah. That's that's money making.
That's
But
profit right there.
that's profit. All right, so I'm gonna sign off here now. Do the thing. The
Yep.
button's over there.
Like and share, subscribe, support us as we uh, take you through the college football world, and then I have to go uh, make a playoff push in softball. I mean, you guys saw earlier this year when we were awful, awful softball team. My ERA in the last 3 starts 4.27, and that's per 6 innings. So that's pretty good when we were giving up 20 runs a game before.
What a recovery. Did you have a start where you gave up 20?
Uh, no, I pitched like a couple innings to start the year in the first game, but our problem was we played the top 3 teams in the league the first 3 weeks, and our next 3 games were against the bottom 3 teams. So we're 3-3. If the 4 teams make playoffs, so as long as we beat the 2 teams that are left, then we make playoffs essentially.
That's amazing. You got a late game too. It's like the I hate to say Saturday prime time. It's more like Pac-12 after dark going on with your
Yeah,
softball stuff.
they do them here. It's 6:30 to 9:30 is the start times. So we did have a 9:30 earlier this month, but we had two 8:30s in a row now. I don't know what time our game next week is at, but I really appreciate that they. And last week was weird because they had the Stars game on at there's a sports bar behind home plate, and they have TVs out on the second deck, and there's one TV that you can see from the field. And normally it's the Thursday night football game, so I can just watch it while I'm pitching.
That's amazing.
What?
I said that's amazing.
Oh yeah, but last week it was on the Stars, and I couldn't watch the game. I was so pissed.
Oof. All right, so before I sign off here, some breaking news real quick to leave you on. Miami just signed the highest rated cornerback recruit since Patrick Peterson.
Really?
Yeah. Things are looking up in our world while it's looking terrible on the field.
Patrick Peterson is ass now.
He was great in high school.
Well, he stinks on the Vikings.
On that note, see ya.
See ya.